I'm here today with Steve Dawson on Country Pocket. His new album is Ghosts, and the first song you just heard, one of the more powerful and strange ones, is Mile South of Town. So, Steve, tell me about getting yourself inside the headspace of someone who is quite literally dying.
Yeah, so when I was a teenager living in Idaho, I actually came across a guy in the middle of the night, and I was driving alone. I came across a guy who had hit a deer on a motorcycle, and he was laid out in the street, and the deer was laid out in the street, and there was nobody around, and that image has just stuck with me my whole life. Um, and I always thought there's a story, there's definitely a backstory to this, but I don't know what happened to the guy, but I just tried to put myself in the mind of that guy and using some of the people I knew in Idaho, some of these kind of veterans or just sort of people that have been just sort of shattered by life and poverty and sort of cast it that way.
Yeah, you definitely focus on other aspects of that life in Idaho in the album, including on a song called Leadville. We'll get to that in a minute, but I guess putting yourself in that mindset, you see a lot of people in Idaho cope with their trauma in unhealthy ways.
Did I?
Yeah.
I think so. Although as a teenager, I wasn't putting that together. But I think that's a pretty human response to to trauma. I mean, we're definitely seeing that now on a pretty vivid scale nationally of just like the just unbridled rage of people who have their expectations haven't been met of what they thought their life was going to be, so they're blaming others and just filled with rage. So yeah, I think it's a human thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I appreciated the way you sort of had that person and that deer making a connection at the end.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I got out of my car and I did look at the deer, and the deer's eyes were open and it was breathing, but it was. I probably actually made more of a connection with the deer than the guy because the guy was very much passed out and clearly had been drinking heavily. But the deer was breathing fast, and I just got the sense that it was panicking. So, yeah, I had more empathy. Well, I shouldn't say I had more empathy for the deer, but I felt more presence from the deer.
Yeah, I mean, if it was up and moving, so let's go to that world of Idaho. Tell me about how you tell me about how you really went scorched earth on some of your experiences there in Leadville.
Well, it's a reaction to a lot of sort of mythologizing that goes on in Americana songs and country songs about small town America, and that these people are somehow better than other people, like the heart of America. And there was that song called "Try That in a Small Town," and it felt like it needed a counterpunch to sort of like say, well, okay, not so fast. There's plenty of just horrible people in small towns as much as anywhere else, and I know that firsthand. And so yeah, it was a reaction to this American mythologizing of the small town in
I would
song.
say it's safe to say that wherever there are people, there are going to be horrible people.
Yes, I think you're right. Sad to say, but
Maybe
true.
sometimes some good ones.
Yes, yes.
Um, what did it feel like living in a town that so clearly went up against your values?
I kept to myself. I mean, that's how where I learned guitar. We lived in a house that was miles from the town, so I was only in town to go to school. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was bullied. I got punched by this. There was a guy that sort of preyed on me because I was carrying a guitar, and he'd punch me in the hall and push me over outside, and I just, carried on because I don't know how you're supposed to deal with a bully. It's not like I had any retaliation available to me, and I was, not a tough guy. Um, so I just sort of kept my head down and kept to myself and learned to play guitar and did my schoolwork.
Is that how you're handling looking at the nation now and also realizing there's a bit of a disconnect in your values and what the country is looking for at large?
Well, I mean, I go in waves. There's times when I'm just completely outraged because now in my life I'm surrounded by people that are reasonable people that have empathy that want to do good and provide a better world, and sort of like be filled with love and kindness. Literally, that everyone I know fits that. So that when I see that half of the country is desiring retribution and this sort of fascist authoritarian world that I don't know what do they actually want that? It makes me very angry. But I go in back and forth between I got to do something, but then it's like, well, but what could I possibly do other than I don't know, write postcards, call my senator? I mean, I don't know. What do you do?
Um, I guess sort of host this radio show.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, I write songs. That's what I do. Sing songs and write them and try to I mean, I have songs as well that maybe not so much on this record, but on previous records that are trying to bolster love and kindness and be look more towards the positive and community and just being decent.
What did it mean to you to be able to get out of that small town environment and find a place that matched what you wanted to see in the world?
Oh, it's the best. It's great. Yeah, it took a very long time. But moving to Chicago, I just kind of did it on a whim, but it feels like it was meant to be. And the community here is wonderful. So, yeah, it was. I was very fortunate to have that happen.
All right, we're gonna take a little break and hear Leadville, and we'll be right back with Steve Dawson. The new album is Ghosts.